There are a lot of Pokemon moves that share the same effect as abilities. These moves are rarely seen competitively for the most part, but when their effects are gained passively through an ability, they're usually pretty good. Today we are going to cover abilities that give essentially the same effects that using a move would. And at the end, I'm going to throw in some extras that have the same idea, but are a bit too different for the main list. We'll start off with a primo example. The move Magic Coat reflects certain status moves back at the user. This includes entry hazards, stat lowering moves, and other moves like Taunt and Encore. It shares this effect with the ability Magic Bounce. Magic Bounce is an ability distributed to just a few evolutionary lines and some megas. It also reflects these certain status moves back at their users. These function pretty much identically. Magic Coat just lasts for one turn, while the Magic Bounce ability is like having a permanent Magic Coat up. In Generation 1, Ditto only learned the move Transform. This lets Ditto copy the opponent's stats, ability, and moves. It still is the only move it can learn, and this gimmick was complete trash for the first few generations of Ditto's existence. But when hidden abilities came into existence in Generation 5, Ditto was blessed with his signature ability Imposter. This is basically just using the move Transform on switch-in. You don't have to use up a turn using Transform, which makes Ditto an actual usable revenge killer or even reverse sweeper. You can copy a setup sweeper and outspeed them with a Choice Scarf. Ditto can also take advantage of other Pokemon's abilities on switch-in or use their support moves against them. A really great ability is Levitate. It basically gives the user the same immunities a flying type has. This includes an immunity to ground type moves, terrain effects, not being hit by spikes or sticky web, and more. A move that can be seen sparingly is Magnet Rise. It raises the user off the ground for 5 turns, providing essentially the same effect as Levitate. I mentioned terrains just a few seconds ago. The 4 terrains can be summoned by their respective moves and last for 5 turns. Well, these are pretty great examples of moves that you would never see before their ability counterparts existed. The 4 Surge abilities entered in Generation 7 with the introduction of the Tapus. They each wield the power to summon supportive terrains upon entry. These provide the same effect as the terrain setting moves and have no different functional effect. The ability Hadron Engine, which is exclusive to Miraidon, is very close to the move Electric Terrain, but it also provides Miraidon a boost to its special attack, like it needed it. While Miraidon has a better version of a different ability, how about a better mobile game to boost you up? This video is sponsored by Marvel Strike Force. Marvel Strike Force is a dynamic squad-based RPG that brings the Marvel Universe to life. You can assemble powerful teams of Marvel heroes and villains to face off against iconic enemies with endless team combos and strategic gameplay. Use my link in the description or scan my QR code right over here to obtain free characters this month, such as Agatha Harkness. Hop into some campaign mode to learn the ropes as you unlock more characters. These include some of my personal favorites like Deadpool, Captain America, and of course Spider-Man. Your goal is to power up your roster to complete missions, unlock gear and other resources, and beat other players in PvP modes like Alliance War and Arena. What I enjoy most is a team synergy component. Pairing characters from the same factions like Avengers or X-Men boosts your overall power and encourages strategic team building. With a constantly evolving meta, finding ways to maximize your character's potential is the key to mastering Marvel Strike Force. New characters are constantly being released, and this month be on the lookout for the highly anticipated Agatha in celebration of the D+ show, and you can get her for free from the login calendar. You can also unlock other characters and costumes from Marvel movies, TV shows, comics, and more. This month we have new highly anticipated character Blade and his team of Night Stalkers. And to celebrate the spooky season, players can redeem promo code Halloween to get their free 100 shards for Zombie Iron Man, 600k gold, and 480 L2 training modules. So use my link or promo code to download Marvel Strike Force. Now back to the video. Now everyone knows of the amazing and often annoying ability Intimidate. It lowers the target's attack by 1 stage upon entry. Well, you know what move has the same effect? Growl. Yeah. Growl is just Intimidate in move form. It lowers the target's attack by 1 stage and is also a spread move. Growl is sound based, so it won't hit soundproof mons, but it does have the ability to hit through Scrappy, Oblivious, Own Tempo, and Inner Focus unlike Intimidate. Just unfortunately, these benefits come at the cost of having and using Growl. Speaking of abilities that deal with attack, Intrepid Sword, the signature ability of Zacian, has two move equivalents. These are the moves Sharpen and Meditate. While Zacian's Intrepid Sword will raise attack by 1 stage, so will these competitively unused moves. They provide the same effect, except now Intrepid Sword can only activate once, so it is the only one of these 3 that have been nerfed. While we're on the topic, Dauntless Shield should be mentioned. It shares its property with Harden and Withdraw. They each raise the user's defense by 1 stage. Defense Curl should be mentioned, but it gives that juicy boost to Rolo in Ice Ball, so it is a little different. Imagine an ability that gave the Rolo double power boost upon entry. You can definitely give it to an Ice Rock Snowball Pokemon and make its gimmick Rolo in Ice Ball spam. I can smell the ZU already. But what's better than 1 boost? How about double that and give it to the next mod? The abilities Huge Power and Pure Power do just that. It doesn't show up as a stat change, but these abilities double the user's attack stat. This is the same effect you would get if using the move Sword Stance. It gives a +2 to attack, which will result in a ×2 boost. There is some difference with one being a multiplier to the user's attack versus SD being a stat boost, but one Sword Stance is basically just Huge Power. We covered terrain abilities, but what about weather? The weather summoning abilities provide the same effect as the corresponding weather summoning moves. It wasn't always like this, as weather summon from abilities used to be permanent, but now they each set weather for 5 or 8 turns, depending if the user is holding a weather rock. The ability Shadow Tag traps all opposing Pokemon, preventing them from switching out. The moves Mean Look, Spiderweb, and Block all provide the same effect as Shadow Tag. The Arena Trap ability is similar, but doesn't affect Flying type and Levitating Pokemon like Shadow Tag or those trapping moves. Shadow Tag is basically using those trapping moves on your opponents upon switching. The moves Odor, Sleuth, and Foresight allow the users to hit ghost types with normal and fighting type moves they would normally be immune to. These are rarely seen moves competitively, pretty much only commonly seen on Hitmontop as a reliable rapid spin tech against ghosts. This has the same effect as his ability Scrappy. Scrappy is an ability that bypasses ghost type immunities and is great competitively. It's not an effect that can be switched out of, like Foresight and Odor Sleuth, while not needing to use a turn and move slot on it. Scrappy also has the added benefit of being immune to Intimidate since Generation 8, which just boosts the ability to even greater levels. The next example I have is for a never seen move in Lucky Chant. This is a field effect that protects the user and their team from critical hits. This is the same effect of the abilities Battle Armor and Shell Armor. Obviously there are differences since these abilities only protect the user, while the move will protect any active Pokemon on the user side of the field. Its effect also wears off in 5 turns, but they are similar enough for me to mention here. Terrible move and ability alert. When it comes to competitive play, the move Camoflauge and ability Mimicry function virtually the same. They will alter the user's type to match their environment. In game for Camoflauge, this can result in becoming plenty of different types, especially in Generation 6. But in competitive settings, you can really only use this move in terrains to change your typing. Link battles will cause Camoflauge to turn you into the normal type if no terrain is up, or the type of corresponding terrains. Mimicry, the terrible signature ability of Galarian Stunfisk, will activate if terrain is up and will change Stunfisk's type to match the terrain. There is very little use you can really get out of both of these, and they actually aren't even in the same generations, as Camoflauge was removed after Generation 7, while Galarian Stunfisk is a product of the Generation 8 games, so they kept the terrible concept alive through a mod who has no synergy with it. The move Mist isn't ever seen competitively, but it is very similar to the abilities White Smoke, Clear Body, and Full Metal Body. Mist creates a field effect on the user side that will prevent stat drops from moves and abilities for 5 turns. This gives the same effect a Pokemon with those 3 mentioned abilities would have. Mist is actually most similar to Full Metal Body, as both of these aren't affected by Mold Breaker. These all don't prevent self-inflicted stat drops, but I could see a use for Mist if it had that added benefit. Let's finally buff this worthless move. The move Charge is not a terrible move after being buffed to increase special defense, but its primary effect is to double the power of the user's next electric type attack. This gives a charge effect and will remain active until the Pokemon attempts to use an electric type attack. Bellibolt was introduced in Generation 9 and has the signature ability Electromorphosis. When hit by an attack, this ability will activate and give Bellibolt a charged effect. This works out to be the same as charge, doubling the power of the next electric type attack Bellibolt would use. So while it doesn't get the nice +1 to special defense, it is way more useful as a passive effect from an ability rather than using a move slot in turn with charge. Disable is a status move that prevents the affected Pokemon from using the last move it used for 4 turns. Curse Body is an ability that has a 30% chance of applying the same disable effect to an attacking mon when hit by it. This results in the same effect, in a good example of a move and ability that are about equal as useful. Disable used to heavily vary in the duration, but now both are set to 4 turns, but really 3 turns since it counts the initial turn as 1. Oh yeah, also Curse Body only works on attack, so it can't disable status moves. The rest of these that I want to cover are definitely worth a mention as they provide either really similar or near identical effects, but calling them the same is a little bit of a reach, just very close to each other. And just a reminder, hit that nice subscribe button as I'm gearing up for a big end of the year with some absolute bangers. Also, join the Budzone Discord. Our first tournament was a blast, and our October tournament will be Saturday, October 26th, and will be featuring a randomized format to be determined in the next few days. I'm going to quickly mention a couple abilities that produce the same effect as moves, but, like Curse Body, require contact on the user to work. The first one is the ability Perish Body. This is Cursula's signature ability and activates when hit by a contact move. This causes the attacker and Perish Body users to faint in 3 turns unless switched out. It produces basically the same effect as Perish Song, a move that causes all active Pokemon on the field to faint in 3 turns without switching out. But there are some differences. In doubles, Perish Body won't affect all Pokemon as a field effect, only the user and Pokemon making contact will be affected. Perish Song is also sound based, so it can be blocked by Soundproof, while Perish Body can be blocked by Long Reach or Protective Pads. A closer ability is Cute Charm. Cute Charm can activate on contact and has a 1 in 3 chance to inflict infatuation if the Pokemon making contact is the opposite gender of the user. This is pretty much a passive version of the move Attract. Attract will cause infatuation if the target is opposite gender, so it is a guaranteed way to gain this volatile status condition. But it provides the same effect nonetheless. Infatuation is definitely the least seen of any status condition, and there are surprisingly few ways to activate it. Attract and Cute Charm are the only real ways, besides Eevee's signature G-Max move. I'm pretty surprised they don't add it as a secondary effect on moves like they do with Confusion, which can activate for moves like Dizzy Punch and Hurricane. Shell Smash is one of the best setup moves in the game. You gain +2 to both attacking stats and speed, at the cost of lowering your defenses by 1 stage. Pretty great trade-off. The ability Anger Shell, seen on Cloth, is basically a poor man's Shell Smash. When hit by an attack that drops it below half health, Anger Shell will increase the user's attacking stats and speed, but just by 1 stage instead of 2. It will also lower the user's defenses, so while it may not be as strong as Shell Smash, it is a passive stat buff, and you can even Swords Dance while tanking attack to get a +3 attack in 1 turn. Bruh. Now on to the stretches. I know some bozo would mention these in the comments if I didn't, but these abilities are kinda similar, but also not. You'll see what I mean. Diplin's signature ability Supersweet Syrup decreases the opponent's evasion stat by 1 stage upon entry. This only works the first time the Little Dipper is sent out. This can have the same effect as Defog. Defog lowers the target's evasion by 1 stage as well, but also clears hazards and screens. The evasion drop isn't even its main effect or reason to use it. These are the only 2 moves that can lower evasion by 1 stage though. We have Sweet Scent, but that was buffed to lower evasion by 2 stages. Curious Medicine is like Haze, but only for your ally. It would have been a pretty good ability if it was just a field-wide Haze upon entry to the tier setup, but instead, it turns into a pretty bland ability placed on a mon that is much better in singles and doubles. No Guard is an ability that guarantees any moves against the target and towards the user will hit. This is seen on mons like Golurk and Machamp to fearlessly click Dynamic Punch and other low accuracy moves. The moves Mind Reader and Lock On give the no guard effect for a single turn after usage, but this is only applicable to the targeted mon and they can simply switch out of that. And for this last one, it's kind of funny to put in this video, but I'm just going to say the move Safeguard. It gives the effects of all the immunity abilities at once. So Limber, Insomnia, Immunity, Magma Armor, Water Veil, and Vital Spirit. It also grants an immunity to Confusion like Own Tempo, but doesn't block Intimidate like Own Tempo does. It would be easier to compare this to the very fair and balanced ability Purifying Salt, but even that ability is better than Safeguard, as it gives a ghost resist on top of blocking status. Why is this ability a thing again? Just put Pursuit back in the game to deal with the ghost. Did I miss any abilities and moves that are the same or very close? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check this one out next. And don't forget to download Marvel Strike Force using my link in the description or QR code. Thanks for watching, buds.